You're listening to the Travis Makes Money podcast presented by GoHighLevel.com. For a free 30-day trial of the best all-in-one digital marketing software tool on the planet, just go to GoHighLevel.com/Travis. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Travis Makes Money podcast, where it's our mission to help you make more money. Today on the show, we have another one of the co-founders of HighLevel, which is a 2 to 4 million user CRM platform. Today we're talking with Varun Vairavan, the CTO of HighLevel. So Varun, first off, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having us.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you guys for being willing to do this, and I've been excited to talk to each of you for separate reasons. CTO behind a company like this. First of all, tell me exactly how you got involved with Sean getting this thing off the ground.
Got it. So, Sean and me have known each other for, 15, 20 years.
Okay.
So we used to work together, the first answering service that he started. So I used to work at that company based out of India.
Oh, okay.
And we worked on the same project together. And we played similar roles. He was kind of like the CEO for the product. I was kind of like the CTO for the product.
Okay.
So although it was under a different company, we played similar roles. So
you just kind of met like serendipitously through that company. Like you got hired there, or he hired you or something, and then that's kind of.
And then we just met through the company, and we worked together for about 7-8 years over there before we went separate ways.
Okay, got it. And then when he got the idea for this one, he was like, who I need to hit up is Varun.
So at that time, I was going through this journey as well. So I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I moved from the company that we were at to a telephony company called Plivo, which is a Twilio competitor. And I really didn't like, so when I was at my first company, I was accidentally a manager. Where I joined as an individual contributor, and before I knew it, I had a team of 20, 25 people.
Was that intentional on your part?
No, it was the company, the product was growing. So it was inevitable. So I just had a team, and I probably wasn't the best manager and didn't intend to be a manager.
Yeah.
And at some point I was like, this is so frustrating. I just wish I could, hone on my own skills, like improve my own engineering. I don't want to manage a team. So let me leave and go somewhere where I think I can find the best engineer so I can develop my own skill. But the minute I went there, I hated it because I was like, well, this sucks. Like someone's telling me what to do and I don't.
The downsides,
I don't get to make the decisions. There's no vision here. Like, someone just tells me what to do every day and I have to do it.
Yeah, you just feel like a drone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at that point I quit, and that was the motivation for, I need to start something by myself. And at that same time, my brother was at a job and he wanted to quit and start something. So both of us started building an app together.
Oh, okay.
And the idea we started with was, how do we build an app for people to find other partners to play sport with? So you're in a new city, you want to play soccer, but a team of 5, but you're in a new city. So who do you play with? Or you want to play badminton, how do you find someone with similar skill? Pickleball didn't exist then, but you get the idea.
Sure.
But when we started building that app, we realized, and this was in India.
Okay.
So the problem we realized was the number of facilities that existed for people to even go play was much lower. So there was no business here. It was a nice hobby project, but this could never be a business.
It was never going to scale.
It was never going to scale. And we're like, well, is there a market to actually go build these facilities then? Because there's tons of people that want to play, but there aren't enough places for them to go play. And we started building that business, and that's still alive today. But I realized that my heart
wasn't... So like building brick and mortars.
Yeah. So we built actual sporting facilities. The last one that we built has 5 badminton courts, 2 pickleball courts. It has a gym. It has 3 futsal pitches, a basketball court.
This is in India?
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is a single facility. There's other ones that just have, 4 or 5 badminton courts. So we set up multiple of these. But through that journey, like even as we got started, I realized that this wasn't me. So this was more my brother's vision and dream.
Yeah, well, I mean, these are 2 wildly different business models.
Exactly. And we started with software and we moved to something completely different. And it was during this journey, like when we started with software, that Sean reached out. And I kept saying, I'm working on something. I'll hit you back.
Yeah.
But eventually when this conversion happened, where it moved from software to more of a actual brick and mortar business, at that point, I knew my heart wasn't in it. And I pinged Sean back and I said, what's the idea?
Felt fairly disengaged at that point. Yeah, right. Yeah. Let's go back in time here, Varun. So you grew up in India.
Yeah.
Tell me about your parents. What did your parents do?
So both my parents were stockbrokers.
Okay.
Yeah. And both me and my brother, we had a lot of autonomy growing up. So we got to be curious by ourselves. And the way I got introduced to computers is my parents had a computer for the stock trading terminal, but there was
Oh,
one machine that they weren't using, so they just gave it to me. But there was no training, there was no manual, there was no point and click, no Windows, nothing at that point. They
yeah.
just gave me the
What year was
machine.
this?
This was probably 96,
Okay.
98.
Yeah. So
Sometime
there's
that.
no YouTube tutorials out
Yeah, there
there.
were no
Yeah.
YouTube tutorials. And the interesting thing is Windows existed by that point, but I had no idea about any of this. All I knew is I got a machine. If I turned it on, it was MS-DOS. It would just go stand at a prompt that
Yeah.
just C colon. So unless you knew what to do, unless you know to give it instructions, there's nothing you can do with it. So I would just turn it on and turn it off because that's all I knew to do with it.
Yeah.
And then there was a program on TV that taught you some commands in DOS, like
Oh, okay.
dir to list out the directory and a bunch of those. So I would try those commands, it would work, and that's it, turn it back off. So that's kind of how my journey started. But it was this black box, it was mysterious. I was fascinated by the machine, although I didn't know what to do with it.
Did your brother also kind of take to the tech side or no?
No, he didn't. So,
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, he was always more of the more interested in sports, and somehow I just took to technology.
Yeah, but your parents sounded like they were somewhat entrepreneurial.
Yeah,
Right.
they were themselves as well. Yeah.
Was there anything that they did purposefully to kind of, I guess, engage that spirit in you, or was it you just kind of learning through osmosis?
Yeah, it was more through osmosis. Somehow the fact that both of them were entrepreneurial also seeded that thought in my head that I was going to do something of that kind.
Yeah.
And growing up, because I got the computer this early, over a period of time, by the time I was in 6th grade, 7th grade, I'd figured it out. I could take it out piece by piece. I could put it back together. By then I'd got Windows. I knew how to install and, clean up a machine if someone got into issue. So I started helping all of my friends. And I would go to everyone. Like if someone had an issue with their computer, I would be the guy that would go fix it.
Sure.
So at some level, I knew I was good with the machine. Somehow I knew that my parents and everyone surrounding me was slightly entrepreneurial as well. So I think all of these early thoughts were there. It didn't all come together, but all of the seeds were there.
It's fairly atypical in India, correct? Like to be entrepreneurial or to have that type of a mindset. It's more.
It was. But I think the other thing is when I started to get into computers, if you look at who the role models were, it was like Gates was big then. And when you start looking at people like that, it inspires you to kind of go in that direction as well. So I think just being driven by the Silicon Valley culture here, and especially because I was into computers and I was following a lot of that news quickly, those were my role models.
I see. So kind of just being like the path that you took was even more set up for entrepreneurship. So you were even more interested in it at that point.
Exactly. Like even after I joined the first company, like one of the first projects that me and Sean worked on was telephony, like setting up Asterisk and free PBX machines. These are VoIP systems. And the first time we set that up, in my mind, somehow I was already replacing the legacy telephone carrier. My mind was going to, well, I don't know why people in India don't run it this. Now I know all of those answers.
Sure.
And in some ways it was foolish of the thought. But in my mind, that I was already there. I was like, well, this is going to be revolutionary and I'm going to deploy a PBX in the cloud and then hook all of these people into it and create my own network. And so those thoughts were always there of, how do we really go out and build something?
Yeah. What were the first, like, were you building stuff for yourself before you started joining other companies to build stuff for them?
I always was, but it was all really just passion projects. I didn't really even want to get other people to use it, most of what I built. It was really just to satisfy my own curiosity.
Okay.
And most times, I think most of the projects up until I decided to quit my job and actually build for other people were projects that were for my own curiosity and not really for others.
Was there any pressure at all to like go to university or anything like that to like when you were, trying to figure out this black box, was it kind of like, were your parents kind of like, okay, this is cool that you're doing this and that's really nice, but also you need to go get a job?
No, so in that they actually leaned in. So, I mean, I wanted to take Java classes when I was in 6th or 7th grade. They actually got me enrolled in them. At school, naturally, I just figured it out. My teachers figured it out that I was really good at computers. So I think everyone around me was kind of reinforcing and...
So they had those classes in school that you could take?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. So it wasn't really... It was never really on the plan for you to do anything other than...
Yeah. No, at some level, I knew that this is where I was going to always go.
So did you end up at university or no?
I did. I
Okay.
went to university, but I didn't complete. I mean, I
Okay.
enrolled, but most of the time I was still reading computer science books and computer science.
What were you going to school for?
Computer science.
Okay. So it
Yeah.
was
But
computer science.
the level that they were teaching at and just the format just didn't somehow click with me. For me, I like the self-paced learning. I like to do it at my own speed, want to learn what I want to learn, not because I was being taught it.
Yeah, not because you were being forced to
Yeah.
take this class because that's what you needed to
Yeah.
graduate, but it was also something that you learned when you were like 13
Yeah.
and no longer served you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, did you find any sort of complexity coming out of India at the time to try to work with some of these US based companies?
No, and for me, I wasn't trying to work directly with the US based companies. I think the first time when we started the company, the entity was based out of India.
Oh, really?
But when I moved to Plivo, that technically, based off the skills that I had, the company that I could have applied for was Twilio.
Okay.
Because they were coming into the market and they were really mopping all of this up. Like no one should be building PBX machines and VoIP systems by themselves. They should just be using Twilio. But Twilio wasn't an option for me because I would have had to apply and come here actually to SF to work at Twilio.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So I would have had to get a visa, or I would have had to apply for a job and get the job and have them get me a visa. And I was like, well, this all seems complex. So who is a person that works on a similar problem but works out of India? And the answer was Plivo, and that's how I went there.
Well, it sounds kind of crazy now because virtual work is like
now
the normal, right? But like at that point,
back then, that was
there was no hopping on a Zoom call real quick to chat through it, right?
Yeah. Those options didn't exist. Like when I applied for Plivo, they didn't even have a job open. I just sent them an email saying, I'm the perfect fit for you guys. Here's why. And
you need me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll prove it. Yeah. Hire me. And at what point did you start making some serious money doing this stuff?
I already was. So even at my first job, for what the pay would have been for that job or for the city that I was living in, about a year or two into my first job, I was already making decent money.
Okay.
And by serious, I couldn't have bought a fancy house or a fancy car. But from where I started, that was serious money because that meant I could do whatever I wanted. I could travel where I wanted. I could eat where I wanted, and I would still be able to lead a good life. So I think a couple of years into my career, I already started making that type of money.
Yeah. Were relationships to you ever like a big part of this in terms of like, I mean, obviously you got connected with Sean early on and that ended up being a really profitable, fruitful partnership and relationship. Leading up to that, did you have any idea that would be the path that kind of led you to where you are now?
No, but I've always noticed that the people from your past always keep coming up over and over again.
In what way?
And you keep running into the same people and the same relationships. And I think if you have the foresight to know that these people are going to play a role in your life again, the way you will treat them will be different to if you feel like it's a relationship in passing.
Yeah.
And what I've seen is those same people keep showing up, maybe because those relationships were good. But I have the same friends that keep coming up over and over again. And whether it's work relationships, it's relationships with vendors or people in other companies.
Yeah.
They switch to a new company, you switch to a new company. You keep seeing the same faces over and over again. So I think just treating everyone, knowing that you're going to see them again in life really has a compounding effect.
Yeah, it's kind of that old illustration of the success ladder of, don't step on hands on your way up the success ladder because they might be the people passing you in a few years.
Yeah.
Got to always keep and manage those relationships well, which obviously you've done extremely well doing that.
Yeah.
When you finally made the decision to hit Sean back and say, okay, finally, what's the idea? How far along was the product or had it even been developed at all?
No, so that was why Sean was hitting me up to come in and start building the product.
Okay.
So at that point, it was just an idea. And the idea that we started with was every business needs to collect payments or send out an invoice. And there's tons of apps out there that already help them do this. But if we could capture even 1% of the market, because every small business is out there downloading a mobile app to send an invoice. But if we could get even 1% of the market, would we be able to make enough to be able to pay ourselves?
So that was like the only thing you were solving for at the time was how do we actually sustain our own income?
Yeah.
How long did it take before you were at that point?
That's the journey. It took a long, long time. So the first app that we built, the app was really popular. The way we were going to make money is it was an invoicing app. So let's make money by taking a few basis points off the credit card payments. The problem was small businesses did not like getting paid using credit cards because there was a chargeback risk. Like if you're a plumber and you just finished a job, you charge someone using a credit card and they charge you back tomorrow. It's on you to prove that you actually fulfilled the service.
Right.
There's a holding period where the bank will keep the funds because if there is a chargeback, they need to be able to refund the money. So if you get paid today, you won't get that money for another 7 days or 14 days. And all of these meant that credit cards just wouldn't work. And since we lost that mode of payment, we were like, well, maybe what we can do is charge them for the mobile app. But no one pays for a mobile app, especially to send an invoice.
Which is so funny, like, I don't know what it is. I don't know. Like, there's something about the app store culture that made it to where it was like, even if it was a useful app, it was like $2.99. I'm not paying $3 for this. That's crazy, So you guys obviously got around that somehow.
So that's it. At that point, we realized that this idea couldn't scale much more.
Yeah.
But what we did really well was move on from one idea to the next. And when that didn't work, the next idea was, well, can we do more? So if the person we're targeting is in home services, what else do? They do appointment booking, job dispatching. So can we build a product that will help them do all of that? And in today's product terms, that would have been a competitor for Jobber, House Call Pro, all of these type of apps. And we called our Service Pro Max. And we're like, well, let's build that software. And we built the whole software. But what we got good at through this whole journey, and there's more, but what we got really good at is building product really, really fast. We were really good with the decisions we made on our initial stack that allowed us to iterate really fast.
Yeah.
So the next product, Service Pro Max, didn't work out because what we realized, if you need to sell to home services, they're out in the field doing the job. So you need to call them while they're at a home or something and try to pitch them on a software, set up a demo time. And there is a percentage of those deals that you would have closed, but it's an LTV to CAC game. So how much money do you have? How many salespeople can you hire? You'll burn through the money, make a few sales. It'll come back up over a period of time. So you had to keep running that cycle. And if that's the game you're playing, then the person that wins is the person with the most money.
Because they can afford to acquire
to acquire customers. And if you looked at it, Service Titan was ahead of us, House Call Pro, Jobber, and all of these companies. Service Titan had raised billions of dollars, House Call and Jobber, hundreds of millions. So, that's a tough game to fight. And at the end of the day, the person with the most money is going to win.
Which is a great lesson. Pick winnable games. As a founder, it's like there's already so many challenges. There's already so many obstacles in building any sort of business to get to the point where you can get customers and prove that they'll pay for your product. And there's just so many missteps that you can make along the way. So if you're picking this hyper competitive field and competing against people that have, seemingly unlimited funds, you're shooting yourself in the foot just to see if you can walk.
I mean, and we didn't learn this through the journey, but one thing that I learned post it is, if you're going to build a company, there's already enough challenges that you'll solve, whether it's capital, it's hiring the right team members, getting your customers to love the product. There's so many challenges that you don't need to add another hurdle in front of you. So the best thing to do is actually find a really large target in front of you, a company that's much, or the company that's the biggest in your space. And there will be a percentage of their customers that are disgruntled for some reason. That don't like the price. And it might be a very, very small subset, a percentage or maybe even lesser, that don't like the price, don't like the level of service that they get. But at the same time, their requirements of the product are not big enough that you need to build the whole thing. You only need to build a subset. So if you can identify a niche like that, you know what they want from a product perspective, because you can see it in your competitor and they're going to tell you which of those features they use. You know what their current problem is with the competitor, so you can solve for exactly that problem. And you still have to solve all of the other challenges around building a company. But at least from a product perspective, you're not guessing. You know exactly what they need.
What was that initial pivot for you guys?
No, for us, it didn't happen that easily. For us, next was, all through this journey, the small businesses kept telling us that they want more sales. But we didn't take that seriously because, of course, every small business wants more sales.
Yeah, of course.
But how do you get them more sales? There wasn't a clear path. But that's where we hit reviews. We're like, how does every small business get found? They get found using reviews. And then let's start building a review software. And with reviews, the challenge was businesses love the idea of it. But 2 or 3 months into the software, they would get good reviews. Like we would hook into their QuickBooks account. Every time they cut an invoice, we'd automatically send a review request. 2 or 3 months after they bought it and we set it up, they would get good reviews, but they would question why they need to keep it. I've got good reviews. I think I'm done.
Yeah, I'm done now.
I'm
Thank
done
you.
now.
Yeah. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Right.
And we tried to tell them, Google looks at the recency of the reviews and all of that, but it didn't matter to most. And that's where it kept pushing us to do more. Okay, so we can't just do reviews. So what else can we do for this person to continue to stick? And that put us on that journey of, adding in SMS, adding in email and SMS automation and the opportunity board. And that was the journey that we set out on.
You are clearly like you're an engineer's engineer. Like you like to build software. This show is called Travis Makes Money because the whole idea is we want to get people to think of outside of the box ways that they can bring in additional income, that they can increase their earnings. And it's like, for younger generations, Gen Z, millennials, the economy's weird, interest rates are high, housing prices are up. And there's probably some things that can happen on a government level or some sort of macroeconomic level that can change that environment in a positive direction. But what we try to preach here on the show is like nobody has more control over your own destiny than you do. Yeah. So what are some ways that you can think about generating more income? And historically, software engineering has been one of those really defensible skill sets where you can always get paid. Yeah. You can always, there's a certain level of job security that comes with being really good at what you do when it comes to software.
Yeah.
I'm curious and this is probably something you've talked about a lot frequently. So feel free to answer this however you'd like to. I'm curious to get your thoughts on what AI is doing to specifically like the future of software engineering jobs.
Yeah. So, both of these I think are interrelated because the barrier that you talked about in the first question doesn't exist anymore with how fast AI is developing.
Yeah.
And with the first one, for me, it was tough as well because the year that we started, 2008 was the recession year. Mm-hmm. So that's when I actually entered the job market. And it was really challenging to find a job. So, I eventually was like, well, what else can I do? I can teach people how to, work with computers. I actually took up a job as a teacher and I was teaching people how to, I think it was for certifications for Microsoft or Cisco certifications, all of those type of things. And then from there, I lead through multiple jobs before I landed at it. But it's definitely something you can learn. I think it was, there's a lot of self-paced learning that's available online. Mm-hmm. The only challenge is it takes a lot of patience and it takes some level of foundational knowledge that you need to be ready to sit down and invest in. Mm. But today with AI coming in, I think it takes a lot of those requirements away. Most people can vibe code their way to success.
Most people can what now? Sorry?
Vibe code their way to success.
Okay.
Where vibe code is almost like, you feel what the app, you're just thinking of feeling what the app needs to do and you tell ChatGPT or, in this case, it'll be Cursor, Lovable, any of these tools, and they'll actually write the code or build the application for you.
So
you don't even need to know how to code. But the use cases that they can build for today, at least, are very simple. But we just met with our team at OpenAI before we came here.
Okay.
And they were telling us about a new software engineer that they've created. Not, you can vibe code your way, but an actual software engineer where you can just tell them what they need to do and it will do it for you.
So the AI agent role.
Yeah. But not just an agent. And this is what I kept asking them. I was like, so it can do one aspect of the job? They were like, no, it will do it all. Like you just tell it what outcome it needs to get to. It will write the code, it will design, it will write the code, it will test the product and it will ship it out all by itself.
Oh my goodness. What type of computing power does it need?
I have no idea. They haven't released it yet.
Okay.
But that's what I told them is get us on the alpha, beta, whatever you can. So you can test this out.
No kidding.
Yeah.
What does this mean for software engineers?
I think the top 2%, not just of software engineers, of any field will still be relevant. Mm-hmm. I think everyone else that maybe
the dabblers.
Yeah, the dabblers who that's not where their heart is, but they're there because they heard that that's how you can make money or all of those people I think will have to find other careers and that will be the challenge. So whatever you're really good at, what you do for fun is what you should be doing for work. And that's the big challenge.
Well, it's going to be crazy to see what happens, because again, it's not just software engineers. It's like a lot of these jobs that were for a really long time, like the most respected jobs because of how difficult it is to get into them, are now being replaced with simple AI tools that cost almost nothing. Even like, lawyers.
Yeah.
Like, how difficult is it to become a lawyer? How difficult is it to go through the journey of getting good grades your entire life so you can get into a good school, get great grades there, get into a good law school, get great grades there, and then go basically eat shit at some law firm for, 15 years before you get a promotion to partner before your career. And then, you put in all that work and you're 43, and then for an app to come out that it's going to do your job would be a really difficult pill to swallow.
And this is where I think where AI is going to is judgment really will be where it's at. Because at the end of the day, there will still be a lawyer there, but the only thing they'll have to do is exercise judgment.
Sure.
Because all of the research that needs to be done, the different arguments that or paths they can take with their arguments, all of that AI will help you put together.
Yeah.
And then it'll give you 2 or 3 paths. Hey, do you want to structure the argument this way based off all this past casework, or this way or this way? And they'll still have to exercise judgment to pick a path and get to an outcome.
Yeah. It's the most genius, hardworking paralegal in history.
Yeah.
That costs almost nothing. And works 24/7 without complaining or needing benefits.
Yeah. But what you need is someone with AI, and this is true across the board, whether it's software, whether it's law firms, is you need someone who is the best at what they do and can exercise that judgment, because AI is really good at giving you productivity, but it hallucinates sometimes. And if you don't know if what it's telling you is right or wrong, then you're going to go for a toss.
Well, that's why you say the top 2% probably will still have some job security.
Yeah.
But you kind of said it, I don't know if it was on purpose or not, but you said a lawyer. It was like that probably sums it up. You no longer need a team of lawyers, attorneys.
A single person. So, one thing that I'm really pushing, and I wrote a blog post about this, I'm talking to the team about this, is a team of one. It's the idea that most teams are really just one person managing a team of agents. So what used to be a team of people is now a team of one. And that really is the future.
Yeah, no kidding. Do you think that this is going to push more people down the entrepreneurship path potentially that maybe have never thought about it before?
100%. Because the other thing is, you, as a single person, you're able to do much more than you could in the past.
Yeah.
So just managing a team of agents, I think more and more companies will really just be one person teams with a bunch of agents that are performing or helping people get to outcomes.
Yeah, it seems so crazy to talk about right now, but it'll be the norm in a decade.
Yeah.
For multiple, I literally just, I had a dentist on the show recently. Really interesting, funny guy. His name is Dr. Brady Smith. He's a dentist and stand-up comic, which is seemingly diametrically opposed career paths. And we were having this conversation about AI and what the potential is. And I was like, well, it seems like for someone in the dentistry field, you probably have some sort of defensibility there because you still have to use your hands. It's not just, maybe you could read an x-ray for you or something like that, but like you still have to like do the things. And he starts telling me about this robotics company that built a tool obviously using AI. And now the combination of AI and robotics is literally drilling teeth into people's mouths, like helping them actually do the thing. And one of his dentist friends was kind of one of the people that volunteered to say, like, I'll put it to the test. Sat in a chair, opened his mouth, and the machine like actually drilled the tooth into his skull, which is one of those things where you're like, this is currently happening.
Yeah. Like
that's happening now. So another career field like dentistry that would have traditionally been highly defensible and really, really high level of job security. It's not even that way anymore.
Yeah. And with most of these systems, there probably needs to be a human in the loop. But again, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be a human. So maybe there's one person and, 10 or 15 of these machines is an entire
babysitter,
practice.
Essentially, to make sure the AI is doing its job properly and not going off the rails. Somebody who has knowledge of the thing and can make the ultimate decision, like quality control.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
The lever pulling is done by machines.
And it's almost like it just needs to ask for confirmation, right? I've looked at the person's teeth. This is exactly what I'm going to do. And someone just needs to look at all of that and see that makes sense. Hit accept, and it's probably going to do the job. Yeah.
And probably going to do the job better.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing is like it has, when it comes to healthcare, your physician only has a small amount of knowledge compared to the total available knowledge of the human body, right? That's why we have specialists. You go to your primary care provider and then they refer you out to this person who specializes in this thing and that person specializes in this thing. Well, if you have a machine that specializes in everything, and like the degree to which it makes mistakes is at a much lower rate.
Yeah, because it doesn't get older, it doesn't get tired, it doesn't have a bad day, doesn't have
fatigue,
a partner that's unhappy at home. So there's no distraction.
Right.
And it has all of the knowledge in the world. So even if it can correlate, even while it's putting teeth in a person, it can correlate and look at signs that indicate other problems within the body and decide whether it's going to do it, not do it. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of, probably fear that comes along with AI, especially when it comes to people who've been doing a certain career path for 20, 30 years. But there's also a lot of promise here as well, because kind of what you alluded to earlier is that it might free up people's time to be able to pursue the things that actually light them up rather than just taking a job because they had to pay the bills. However, it's also a really difficult path to figure out how to monetize the thing that lights you up.
Yeah.
I guess, how long do you think it's going to take for culture at large to adapt to some of these, these realities that AI it's going to replace a lot of jobs?
I mean, timelines are really hard because at the rate at which it's moving forward, it's really hard for anyone to say with any certainty. Maybe it's 1 year or maybe nothing happens for another 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, I think both extremes exist.
What are you most excited about in terms of like AI platforms that have come out? Obviously, everybody knows ChatGPT, everybody knows Gemini, everybody knows a few of these ones. Are there any that have come out recently, or anything that's solving maybe a specific problem that you're looking at and being like, I actually would prefer to use this one over this one?
No, with models, I think it changes every week. Like in some of these cases, we have to sign commits with some of these providers, and we're refusing to sign commits and we're pushing back on them because every week a different model is better or a different company comes out with something that's better. So if you tie yourself with a revenue commit to one of these companies, you're probably going to be behind.
Yeah,
because a better model has come and you're still stuck on an older one.
The Chinese one that came out recently and soared to the top of the App Store, was that DeepSeek?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that versus ChatGPT or some of these other models?
I think the innovation there was really the amount of compute needed to train the model. Like based off the number of parameters, the amount of compute they needed was lesser. But there's a lot of ambiguity over there. Like how much compute did they really have access to? How much did they rely on other models to train their model, where OpenAI already condensed and compressed a lot of this information, and how much of that did they use to train their own model? So there was a lot of ambiguity over there.
Yeah.
But overall, I think this is what happens with any new innovation that comes in.
Yeah.
People will find a way to make it cheaper and cheaper until it makes sense and it makes it easy enough to use in every application possible. So the cost will continue to go down.
So what do you think the next big problem to solve in that space will be? Like, is it computing power? Is it quantum computing that's going to unlock the next level? Is it we need more data storage because data is going to get crazy? They have like sheer volume of data that's being processed. Like we need more storage facilities, or we need better.
I think all of those problems are already getting solved automatically. Like storage, there's tons of storage, cheap storage that's coming up. I think with power, they have figured it out. Compute, people continue to build out. I think quantum computing is a whole different issue. Like if it really were to become generally available, the number of problems we would have worldwide would just multiply. Because at least today, all of the different encryption mechanisms we have, even the hashing that we use for things like Bitcoin, a lot of that becomes irrelevant the minute quantum computing comes up, because it can solve these problems which we think are really hard today in a matter of no time. So quantum computing, I think, will be a foundational shift. It'll be as foundational as what AI is enabling.
Or what the internet was originally.
Yeah, exactly.
And potentially even more so.
Yeah.
Because now we're used to the internet.
Yeah.
And this is going to change everything that we know about it. Can you tell us more about quantum computing? Like, I guess, is it science fiction? Is it real? If it is real, I know you said timelines are hard, but is there any sort of projected?
No, I think where quantum computing is now is, if you look at some of the earlier IBM machines, there used to be an entire building that was a machine and multiple floors of people, working on that machine, right, and, punching cards in and out. So
with less computing power than your phone.
Than the phone. So I think that's where quantum computing is at today. But at some point, it will become affordable enough that it moves out of a lab and it's just generally available.
So 100% it's coming.
Yeah. But I think the timeline is what people don't know. Like it might be, again, 1 year, it might be 10 years. But hopefully what happens in the meantime is, as quantum computing becomes generally available, a lot of these hashing algorithms and other things that we have, we'll have to make sure can survive quantum computing as well.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, if a computer can hack your Tesla and access its driving capability, then someone could just tell your car to be stolen.
Yeah.
You know, they can just be like, all right, call that car to this facility, and now you don't have a car.
Yeah. So I think that is a big one, but I don't know if we'll have to wait for quantum computing. But with AI, I think the next big thing is AGI, and maybe is general intelligence. Basically, it is generally aware. It can decide to learn itself. It can decide what the next task is. Like today, it depends on a human to ask
the prompt.
But if it can exercise its own judgment and it knows what it needs to do, it can self-improve by itself. So that's a different level of intelligence, which the AI that we have today does not have a path to get there. But I think with a company like OpenAI, that's the problem that they're trying the hardest to solve. Because with the models the way they are today, and it's just the parameters, the amount of compute that you have, it's become like a formula. And there's still gains to be had, which Grok and others showed, but it doesn't foundationally get us to AGI. So that's the problem that they're really focused on. And maybe it takes quantum computing to get there or arrives before. But I think for AI, AGI will be the next big thing, where the computer is able to just decide what to do by itself.
So you said could be 1 year, could be 10 years.
Yeah.
Does that mean it definitely won't be 100 years? Like it's coming soon, like in this generation?
And these type of things are tough, like with hydrogen reactors. Yeah. It's always felt like it was a year or 2 years away before we had fission reactors, but it's still not here. And people have in test environments, achieved this multiple times. But just as a reactor that's available to the public and is generating power, it still isn't around. So there are technologies that sometimes feel like they're almost there. It's at the tip of the finger, but it then doesn't happen for decades and decades. So with these type of things, it's really hard to tell.
You never really know.
Yeah.
But this, I would be correct in assuming that this would be like the real hockey stick level of technological growth.
Yeah.
Right.
Because, how do we figure out fission reaction? Like both with quantum computing and with AGI, I think the amount of intelligence we'll have will be so big that a lot of the problems that we can't solve today can be solved.
In a matter of
days, minutes. Yeah.
That's so crazy. What can people do now then to think about like how to be a part of the wave and actually make some of the money rather than being the person who's kind of a victim of the circumstances?
I think in the immediate term, everyone's trying to get more efficient. And there's a lot of businesses and business models that didn't work in the past because of the cost models. But if you apply AI to that same business, would that business have worked today? I think is a good question to ask. So there are businesses that did not work in the past that could possibly work today when you apply AI to it. That's a good way to think about it. Or you go sell AI to businesses to help make them more efficient.
Yeah, kind of like when social media first came out.
Yeah.
And business owners had no idea what to do with it. And there's a bunch of like 23-year-olds running multi-7-figure social media marketing agencies because they just didn't understand it. So they outsourced it to a 20-year-old.
Exactly.
That's kind of what's going to be around the corner here for AI.
Yeah.
Is it ridiculous to say that if you're a small business owner and you've not yet started at least playing around with AI, that you're making a serious mistake?
Yeah. No, but I think the challenge that most small business owners have is they have some experience with it. They probably use ChatGPT just as a replacement for Google search and engage with it in some form. But they really don't understand how that applies to their business.
Sure.
And that's where I think the opportunity is. I think there are people who can gain these skills and really understand how to apply this to a business and go out and help them. They will say yes to it because they want the outcome, but they won't be able to get to the outcome themselves.
Yeah. So a plumber in a town in Oklahoma, how could they potentially use AI in their business besides just replacing Google search for it?
Conversation AI, which is the ability to have AI respond to all inbound messages that you get, whether it's on text messaging, it's on WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, no matter where you get messages, you can have AI respond for you and book appointments for you.
Interesting.
I think that would be really useful.
A good place to start.
AI can pick up calls for you. So someone calls your business, you're at a job site, you can't pick up the phone. AI can pick up the call, collect the lead information, book them in for an appointment, and send you an email after letting you know that it did that.
Is this a specific AI software platform, or can you use something that's readily known?
We have this within HighLevel today.
Okay.
But you just sign up and it's really easy to set up. It'll just ask you what pieces of information you want to collect from them, what type of industry or niche you're in, what your business's name is, and then it's ready to go. That's all the information that it needs. And if the user tries to move away from that, it will redirect them back. So if they're like, no, I want you to tell me the price, it will say, well, I'm going to have someone call you back with the price. I don't want to give you an incorrect number or something. Yeah. Can I get your phone number so I can have them call you back? So it can keep self-correcting, or it can keep pushing yourself. But when you listen to those conversations, you also know what questions, and we'll show this to you as well, what questions are coming up on these calls more often. And if you want to answer them, you can keep adding in FAQs and more to the prompt. So as you go, you're improving the experience for your customer as well.
You're training an employee essentially.
Exactly.
Just one that, again,
but the only thing is you'll have to train this employee only once, and this employee will never quit.
Yeah. So right. Or complain.
Yeah.
Or spread rumors to other employees about the company or whatever. Yeah. So really, like, small businesses should be using this for efficiency in systems and increasing overall profitability within the business.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Varun, this has been an awesome conversation. I really appreciate you for coming on the show. Before we take off, I know you are big in relationships, but you're also an extremely knowledgeable, intelligent person. Who you know or what you know? Which of those two is more important in your opinion?
I think who you know is more important than what you know, because if you have distribution, you can figure out the what. But without the who, it doesn't matter what you know. You're the only person that knows it.
Perfect. Varun, thanks so much for coming on the show, man. This is awesome. Everybody listening and tuning in, watching, remember, we are going to be doing a full interview with all three of the founders. So if you've not checked out that interview or the interview with the other two founders, go look for, if you're on YouTube or Spotify, wherever you're listening to this, watching this, go check out those other interviews as well, because there's a lot of other things that we're going to get into as it relates to HighLevel specifically, and what you can do to use their platform to make some more money for you and for your family. So thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. We'll catch you on the next episode. Peace out.